Greetings everyone, this is Jeff Wilkerson, Professor of Physics at Luther College, bringing you the next in our series of what to look for in the night sky. We're talking about the week of September 12th, 2022 this time around. So I think we'll take a look at the summer triangle and in particular Cygnus this week. So right now is the best time to observe the summer triangle if you're a northern hemisphere observer. If you're in the southern hemisphere, you might have a little bit of trouble seeing these northernmost stars. But for me, one of the things we've been talking about, let's start there. Let's say, one of the things we've been emphasizing as we've started the first week of the astronomy class. We're 1 week into the semester right now. We've got a week of astronomy in place. We went to the planetarium yesterday. We made angle measuring devices and went to the planetarium and looked at declinations of stars and looked at patterns of stars on the sky, and it was great fun. And one of the things we've been emphasizing is the system that we use to measure positions of objects on the sky, the right ascension and the declination. And to say the right ascension is the projection of longitude on the sky, declination is the projection of latitude onto the sky. So what that means, the zenith point is the point that's directly overhead, and what that means is that if you've got a star that has a declination that's equal to your latitude, it can appear at the zenith directly overhead. So stars that have declinations, the latitude equivalent on the celestial sphere, near your latitude here on Earth, can appear very high in the sky near the zenith point. For me, those stars, two stars, bright stars of the summer triangle, Vega and Deneb, fit that category, and they appear very near the zenith. So the summer triangle looks like this, big old triangle high in the sky right now as it gets dark. What I've been telling people for a while is as you go outside, I've been doing planetarium shows and such, so if you go outside right now as it gets dark, look up. That bright star that's closest to directly overhead is Vega, So Vega has, I live at about 43 degrees north latitude, and Vega has a declination of about 38 degrees. So it's going to get within 5 degrees or so of the directly overhead spot, about half a fist width at arm's length. So very close to overhead. But now as it gets dark, Vega is actually starting to slip a little bit past the meridian, a little bit west of the directly overhead spot, and Deneb is taking its place. And so Deneb, it gets even closer to the zenith for me because Deneb has a declination, if I remember correctly, of about 45 degrees. So Deneb gets within a few degrees of the zenith point for me, and now it's going to be there, I think, roughly in the week ahead, in this week of September 12th that we're talking about. It's going to be near that zenith point for me sometime around 10:30 at night. Now, it gets dark so early now relative to what it was just a month or two ago that's already feels like it's pretty well into night. So you go out when it first gets dark, you live at mid-northern latitudes like I do, and you'll see Vega still pretty close to the zenith, and within a couple hours, Deneb will have replaced it and be really close to the zenith. So you can watch these bright stars of the summer triangle. So the other star is Altair, big old triangle that's high overhead right now. Altair is well to the south, doesn't get anywhere near the zenith. For me, if you live well south of where I do, Altair will be the star that would get closer to the zenith for you. All bright. Remember, the magnitude system counts backward, and every magnitude change of 1 is a factor of 2.5 in apparent brightness. Vega is a 0th magnitude star, very bright star. Altair, 0, about 3/4 of a magnitude, and Deneb about 1.25. All of these are good, bright stars. Vega's the brightest. You'll notice that by far. So this is a great pattern to go out and look at as it gets dark, especially if you're at mid-northern latitudes like I am, especially if you're in a place where Vega and Deneb can be close to the zenith, close to directly overhead. You're looking through less atmosphere there. The stars look brighter. The sky's darker. It's just a beautiful way to see the sky, is when you have stuff directly overhead like that. Now, let's blow this up. This mess, I just kept adding stuff to it. Oh, sorry. It's like the boarding class. I just kept writing stuff so that you can't tell anything at all. This is Cygnus. This was intended to take Deneb. We've talked about Deneb al-Ghaidi in Capricorn so many times in these videos, you're sick of it. Deneb is an Arabic word meaning tail, and that's tail of the swan in this case. And so the swan is this big, long stretch of stars flying down the Milky Way, and it looks like that. So that's the body of the swan, that's the tail, the body, there's the head at the end of the long neck of the swan, and there's the wings of the swan. These are all relatively bright stars. We just looked at Deneb, a very bright star. Saturn here in the middle is a 2.2 magnitude star. Delta is 2.9. Epsilon is 2.5. Alberio is this star down here. It marks the head of the swan, is a 3.0 magnitude star. All of those are fairly easily visible, pretty bright stars. Alberio is going to pop in, just to give you a sense of scale over here, very near the middle of that summer triangle. So Alberio would be the star that appears sort of near the center of that summer triangle. Alberio is a fantastic double star if you've got a small telescope. Take your small telescope out, look at Alberio, and it'll split into a beautiful blue and gold components of that binary system. So check that out. Definitely go look at Alberio. It's one of the better double stars in the sky. Back here, we can look at a couple other binary stars. A delta is a binary star. This is a tricky binary star with the components pretty close together, and one of the components, the fainter of the components, being pretty faint. And it's actually in a tricky spot. We won't get into this too much here right now, but it's a tricky spot. You get a diffraction pattern with the bright star. So you'll get, the light. If you could break that light out, the light would be in light and dark rings that come from the diffraction of of the light. And the component, the secondary component, is actually pretty close in one of those diffraction rings, and so it's a technically complicated thing that says it makes this pretty hard to actually see the component in here. But if you've got a bigger telescope, this will work in a very small telescope. A bigger telescope would maybe split these. This is a good test of your skies too. You need really still skies, not a lot of turbulence in the sky. Likewise, if you go out this direction, so there are stars. So I was singing in my. This is what happens. I say a word and then I'm singing a song. I'm singing an Eagles song when I said there are stars in the southern sky, but that's something else. You go out this direction. That's the main pattern. As I have in previous weeks here, I encourage you to go to our website, astronomy, luther.edu/astronomy. Look at the asterisms and see the pattern. We have a picture of Cygnus up there where you can see these bright stars that make the cross. That's most of what you're going to see. But there are faint stars that trail off each direction. And among the stars out this direction are a couple of other binary stars that are tough to pull out. If you got a bigger telescope and you want to try, step on out past Epsilon to Zeta to Mu out this direction. Nice double star. Nice binary star actually in orbit, components in orbit. And then sort of Zeta and Epsilon and make a more or less equilateral triangle with Tau up here. Tau is another fine, hard to separate binary star. But if you're into this sort of thing, if you're into observing binary stars and seeing these stars and trying to pull them out close, these are good examples for you. You could spend there's more in Cygnus, and you could spend a good bit of time in Cygnus. Start with Alberio, look at Mu, Tau, and Delta, and see what you can do. Now, a couple other things we'll point out. There's a couple of open star clusters. M29 is within a degree or so of the body of the swan. Say they're the heart of the swan, just a degree south or southeast of the heart of that bright star. So pretty easy to find. But it's not a great open star cluster. It's big and loose. Binoculars are going to help you see that best of all. M39 is up this direction. You walk from Satyr up to Deneb, do the same distance on up, and then over about half as far again, and you get to M39. Also a kind of sparse, loose cluster. Maybe binoculars are your best bet. That one might hold up a little bit better to binoculars. I mean, to a small telescope. I don't know, but you don't want too big of a telescope for this. You want a low power eyepiece for sure, and a relatively small telescope would do better for these sorts of things. Binoculars are probably your best bet. You want a real challenge. You want something that's interesting to see. Then NGC 7000 is about 3 degrees, I think, from Deneb. Go up to Deneb and step over about 3 degrees. This is what's known as the North American Nebula. You go out and look at pictures of it. When you take photographs of it, the outline looks kind of like the outline of North America. That's how it gets its name. So this is just a bright cloud in the Milky Way right here. This NGC 7000 it is. And it's worth trying. If you got a telescope and you're out here, you're doing your double stars, and you want to take a look at something else that's challenging in this region, do that. So that's what we got for you this week. We've got the summer triangle. Go out, appreciate how high it is in the sky right now, then go over and look at the constellation of Cygnus. And if you got binoculars, see if you can check out M29 open star cluster and M39 open star cluster. And then if you got a telescope, Albireo is a great double star, and then you've got some more trickier double stars, so you can check out the North American Nebula. So I hope you have a great week, everyone. I hope you have clear skies, and as always, thanks for watching. We'll have something more for you next week.